It's Thursday, May 12th, 2022, and I call this meeting of the House Higher Education Committee to order. Today, we will be hearing public testimony on the House and Senate versions of House File 3872. In addition to the testifiers we have on the call today, members will find additional written testimony in their packets and posted on the Higher Ed Conference Committee page. We have a number of testifiers on the list today, and I will ask everyone to keep their testimony to 2 to 3 minutes to make sure that everyone that has signed up gets a chance to speak. I'll ask that members who have questions or comments to please hold them until the end to ensure we give everyone a chance to speak. If we run out of time or testifiers cannot stay on for questions, we can always follow up and invite testifiers to join us again at the next meeting. Our first testifier on the list is Commissioner Olson from the Office of Higher Education. And I believe we were going to do him at the end, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and call on him at the end. Axel Kailander is first on our list, President of Lead MN. Welcome to the committee, Axel Kailander.
Thank you and good morning, Chair Bernardy and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Axel Kailander and I'm the President of Lead MN. Students go to college for its promise of a brighter future once we secure the certifications we need to have good jobs and successful careers. With the doors opened by our degrees, we will be able to fill the state's workforce gaps and provide for our families. But right now we are forced to make a terrible choice. Go to some of the most expensive two-year schools in the country and sacrifice our basic needs to pay for our classes, or stop going to college to be able to scrape by, but lose the economic mobility that comes with a degree. And when we have to make this choice, all of Minnesota suffers, as our state now has thousands of students in crisis and thousands of would-be students who cannot fill the widening gap in our workforce. Investing in the free college grant program would restore the opportunity for an affordable education to thousands of Minnesotans. Education is the backbone of the middle class, and this is our chance to make it attainable for everyone again. And free college isn't about handing us our futures on a silver platter. It's about making a system of higher education where every Minnesotan has a fair chance to attain their version of the American dream. This is a historic opportunity to reinvest in Minnesota, in our colleges and the students they are meant to serve. And to further support tomorrow's workforce, the committee can also allocate funding for Minnesota State's basic needs and mental health requests, which will build on the great work of the last legislative session and be another fantastic step towards ensuring every student can be safe and healthy throughout their college journey. The future of Minnesota in the 21st century lies in post-secondary education, and the legislature has an incredible chance to make the strategic and impactful investments needed to drive us to a bright tomorrow, one of opportunity and success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Up now is Emma Zelmer, and on deck is Bill Mackey. So welcome to the committee, Ms. Zelmer, and State Chair of Students United.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Bernardy and Chair Tomassoni and committee members. My name is Emma Zelmer, and I'm the State Chair of Students United. I'm here today on behalf of the 50,000 Minnesota State University students. I followed in my parents' footsteps and became a fourth-generation Minnesota State University Mankato student in 2018. My parents, who graduated from Mankato in 1996, were among the last generation of students who saw the state legislature fully invest in their futures. Minnesota State Statute 135A.01 states that the legislature intends to provide at least 67% of the cost of a higher education at our public institutions. However, the last time the state reached this committed funding amount was 1999, the year before I was born. Although we will not reach 67% this session, we do have an opportunity to provide necessary relief to students. We can continue to address hunger on campus, provide mental health support to students in need, and increase access to basic needs resources in our college and university communities. Students are too often forced to choose between purchasing a textbook, having a roof over our head, or buying our next meal. This is why we support the expansion of the Hunger-Free Campus Grant Program, which provides resources to campuses to help students meet their basic needs and is essential for the well-being of our students. We also support the Emergency Grant Program, which has been proven to help students stay in school and finish their degree. I have seen too many students have their lives derailed by one or more unexpected expense, where they must make the difficult decision to provide for themselves and their families or to drop out of college. Many of these students do not return to earn their degrees, and it is essential to support these students and invest in the Emergency Grant Program. The 50,000 students of the Minnesota State Universities are requesting that you support a higher education omnibus bill that invests in our students and university communities. I've been coming to the legislature for the last 4 years, lobbying on behalf of Minnesota State and the students of our system. And every year I've heard, maybe when we have a larger surplus, we can finally fund higher education. We have the largest surplus in the state history. So it's time that we use that money to show our values as a state and invest in our higher education systems. The students of the Minnesota State Universities appreciate this opportunity to share the student perspective, and we thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. With us now is Vice Chancellor of Finance and Facilities at Minnesota State, Bill Mackey, and up on deck is Jackson Allen, a former U of M tennis player. Welcome to the committee, Vice Chancellor Mackey.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy. Chair Tomassoni and members of the conference committee. For the record, I'm Bill Mackey, Vice Chancellor of Finance and Facilities at Minnesota State. First, I'd like to thank you for your partnership with Minnesota State, supporting our students, our faculty and staff, and the campuses and communities throughout the state of Minnesota. We greatly appreciate your engagement with our colleges and universities and the communities you serve. My comments today will be focused on Minnesota State's supplemental budget request. I want to thank you for your consideration of our request as you put the bills together. While the appropriation levels for campus support vary in the two bills, we do appreciate that the Governor, House, and Senate have all recognized this important need. As you know, Minnesota State requested $30 million in base funding for campus support to address the cost increases in the second year of the biennium, as we did not receive new funding last session over fiscal 22 levels. We greatly appreciate that the House bill goes much further in funding our campuses, but we have concern that funding is mostly one-time in nature. We ask that as you continue to negotiate one higher education bill, that you consider the inflationary costs our campuses are experiencing and provide as much funding as you can in the base. We also appreciate that the House bill addresses student basic needs and mental health at the Minnesota State campuses. As part of our supplemental budget request, this base funding would enable Minnesota State to sustain the exciting initiatives we have started into the future. Most recently, with the one-time funds we received last session, we were able to form a unique partnership with the Greater Twin Cities United Way that leverages Greater Twin Cities United Way's 211 resource helpline to support students in meeting their basic needs. Through 211, students will be able to easily access information and referrals to on-campus and community-wide resources, including mental health support. Again, the base funding we are asking for this session will help us sustain this partnership and other initiatives like it. Lastly, I would like to mention that both bills include provisions that benefit our students and campuses and reflect the mission of Minnesota State. We respect these priorities, and if signed into law, we would work carefully to make them successful. Chair Bernardy, thank you for your time and your commitment to higher education, as well as the committees and to students across the state. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you very much. On deck is Jenna Cernega from Minnesota State, and with us now is Jackson Allen, former U of M tennis player. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy and Chair Tomassoni, for allowing me to speak. For the record, my name is Jackson Allen. I'm a former tennis player at the University of Minnesota. I ended my playing career playing #1 singles and #1 doubles for the Gophers, and I was named first team All Big Ten. I've since transferred to the University of Virginia for my final year of eligibility. I'm actually stepping out of practice to speak on this issue, as it's very important to me still, even though I'm no longer a Gopher. And thank you for not letting this decision rest without further review and research. At Minnesota, I was in the Carlson School of Management, where I studied accounting and finance. And I actually think that Mark Coyle's recent decision to cut sports at the University of Minnesota would make a great case study regarding two topics taught to college students at Carlson: materiality and cost-benefit analysis. We all know recently the Gopher Athletic Department eliminated 3 men's sports, and most of us are aware that they concurrently eliminated 41 women's roster spots. What impact does this have on the athletic department as a whole? Well, cutting 3 men's sports and 41 women's roster spots effectively eliminated 25% of the men's teams and 10% of the women's roster spots within the department. Sheesh, you betcha that's a big reduction. 25% of the men's teams and 10% of the women's roster spots eliminated overnight. That's quite the cost. Now, what does the University of Minnesota gain from eliminating 25% of their men's teams and 10% of their women's programs, of their women's roster spots, $1.6 million. This brings me to the question of materiality. Is $1.6 million a lot in the grand scheme of Gopher athletics? Is it a material savings? Well, in 2019, the university's athletic departments incurred $129 million in expenses. By cutting 25% of the Gopher men's teams and 10% of women's roster spots at the University of Minnesota, the athletic department saved 1.2% of their annual budget. After reviewing the case of Mark Coyle cutting 3 men's sports programs and 10% of the women's roster spots, every single Carlson student would conclude that this decision is poor. The pros, saving 1.2% of the budget, do not outweigh the cons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With us now is, on deck is Paul Spiess from the Coalition to Increase Teachers of Color and American Indian Teachers in Minnesota. And with us right now is Jenna Cernega from Minnesota State faculty.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Jenna Cernega, and I'm a professor in the Sociology Department at Winona State University. I'm here today representing the Interfaculty Organization, the union of 4,000 professors, coaches, librarians, and counselors at the 7 Min-State universities. We applaud your efforts to help boost enrollment and address affordability. The House bill offers tremendous opportunity to Minnesotans to access our state colleges and universities, and the Senate builds on the successful workforce development grants. We understand wanting to develop or expand existing programs. However, I would encourage you to think even simpler. Our universities are languishing. At Winona State, for example, we just closed our journalism program, not for a lack of students or a lack of interest, but for a lack of faculty. There are simply not enough dollars to hire the faculty to keep all of our programs going. Our biology department has lost over 1/3 of their department, making it difficult for students to get the anatomy and physiology courses necessary to enter the nursing majors. Our economics and finance departments have been cut in half, making it hard for any students in the College of Business to get the prerequisite econ and finance classes required for the entire college. And we're on the verge of closing our Popular Writing Center, a place where as many as 1,500 undergraduate and graduate students a year receive help with academic writing. Our sister campuses are not doing better. Minnesota State Moorhead recently announced the closing of 3 programs: English as a second language, Spanish, and Women's Studies. Closing programs like these make it harder for us to reach the Equity 2030 goals of closing achievement gaps across the state. The very programs that best serve our most marginalized students are on the chopping block. We desperately need your support to strengthen and protect core institutional offerings. Before we can meet the needs of students with a free college program or accept more students into our law enforcement programs, we need to ensure we have the capacity to make those students successful. Getting students in the door is one challenge, but getting them to the point of graduation is another challenge altogether. With your support, we can close the structural deficit for Min-State campuses from last year's budget and protect the student support services and course offerings the next generation of students will need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now on deck is Samantha Matson from Concordia University, St. Paul. With us now is Paul Spiess, Dr. Paul Spiess, I should say, Legislative Action Team Lead with the Coalition to Increase Teachers of Color and American Indian Teachers in Minnesota. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and conferees. My name is Paul Spiess with the Coalition to Increase Teachers of Color American Indian Teachers in Minnesota. I'd like to first start by thanking Senator Rarick, Representative Keeler, Senator Jasinski, Senator Clausen, Chair Bernardy for your leadership in authoring the 2022 Increased Teachers of Color Act. As you heard in the powerful testimonies for teacher candidates in your committees earlier this session, it's crucial that our state increase financial support to help BIPOC teacher candidates complete their preparation programs. The proposed increased investments by the House are just less than half of the investments that we said were needed in the Increased Teacher of Color Act, and they are just 5% of the total House proposals. 4 out of every 10 K-12 students are students of color and American Indian, yet only 5 of every 100 K-12 teachers are of color or American Indian. If K-12 students today had equitable access to diverse K-12 teachers who reflected students' diversity as promised in several statutes since 2016, there would be approximately 22,000 BIPOC teachers in their state. However, there are fewer than 3,000. Increasing the percentage of BIPOC teachers just 1 percentage point will mean that we need to have a net increase of BIPOC teachers of 630 in 1 year. The House's proposed $1.5 million increase for the underrepresented student teacher grants will help 200 BIPOC student teachers complete their programs. And the House's proposed $3 million for the Aspiring Educator of Color Scholarship Pilot Program will support nearly 300 teacher candidates complete their programs. The outcomes of increasing teachers of color in our state are widespread and have a wide ripple effect on all sectors. They'll help increase our college admissions, increase our ability to meet our higher ed attainment goals, increase opportunities, increase jobs and workforce development, while decreasing opportunity and achievement gaps, student debt, and the overall teacher shortage. Please pass a bill that includes both House and Senate proposals for spending. All of that will just amount to less than a penny on the dollar of the surplus that we have as a state. So we can do it, you can do it, your leadership is important. Please fully fund the House proposals for increasing teachers of color. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On deck is Kevin Lottu from Trio Upward Bound. And with us right now is Samantha Matson, student at Concordia College, University, St. Paul. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Samantha Matson. I live in Brook Park, Minnesota, which is just outside of Mora in Kennebec County. I got an associate degree in accounting in 2015 at Pine Technical and Community College. I currently attend Concordia University, St. Paul, completely online, and I'm going for my Bachelor of Arts in Child Development. I just started going back for my bachelor's degree this past September. I am a wife and a mom to 4 children ages 11, 8, 5, and 2 with varying special needs. I'm also a business owner. I run an in-home daycare full-time and have 10 to 12 kids, including my own daily. I chose to attend Concordia St. Paul because I've spoken to quite a few other child care providers who had gone through or are going through the child development program at Concordia University St. Paul, and everyone had great things to say about the program. The program also accommodates my busy schedule as a working parent and a business owner. I would never have been able to go back to school if I had to go in person or even online during daytime hours. I'm speaking with you today because it's important to me that our legislatures hear how real students' lives are impacted by the Minnesota State Grant Program. Funding for the Minnesota State Grant Program is crucial to approximately 66,000 students who will receive a Minnesota State grant next year. In my life, the Minnesota State Grant Program and other financial aid programs allowed me to go back to school in the evenings without acquiring additional debt. I wanted to go back to school for a while, but it wasn't financially feasible. I'm the primary breadwinner and my business supports my family, so reducing my hours or number of children at my daycare would have hurt us financially on top of having to pay for college. With the help of the Minnesota State Grant, I can afford to reduce my hours a little bit while getting my degree. I love learning, and I love that my education will impact the children of the future. Thanks to the Minnesota grant program, I'm able to pursue my education and continue working with children in my community. I am so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you very much. On deck is Amy Wallstein, Educated Policy Director at Minnesota Business Partnership. And with us right now is Kevin Lottu, Legislation and Education Co-Chair, Trio Upward Bound. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kevin Lottu, and I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota Trio Association. Trio programs are a series of federally funded college access programs working to remove barriers for low-income and first-generation college students across the state of Minnesota. We serve over 16,000 students in Minnesota annually and are on the campuses of every higher education system in the state. The Minnesota Trio Association is lending its strong support to the Minnesota state grant adjustments that are reflected in the House bill. In the interest of time, I would like to direct you to our written testimony for rationale about why these changes would be so impactful for students. Increases of $348 to $534 per year may seem like small margins to some, but working with students every day, I can attest that for those who need it, these amounts can mean the difference between dropping out and staying enrolled. I would now like to hand it over to an incredible Trio student from St. Kate's, Natividad Herrera.
Okay, welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
For the record, my name is Nativity Garcia. Madam Chair and members, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the Minnesota State Grant. I live in Apple Valley, Minnesota, and I'm a third year at St. Catherine University in the TRIO program, majoring in social work. On campus, I work 2 jobs and also work 2 outside jobs, totaling around 40 hours a week. Additionally, I'm active in clubs on campus as the president of 2 clubs and sit as the chair of our student government. Even with my workload, it is still vital to me to participate in multiple extracurricular activities to not only gain experience and influence students, but also remain competitive for scholarship opportunities. This year alone, I've received over half my tuition in scholarship and grants. However, this is not enough to make ends meet. On top of maintaining myself, I also have a family that I help provide for as well as general expenses as a college student. To avoid going into debt, I try to pay my way through my education. For many college students like myself, our job prospects after graduating will not be enough to sustain living expenses and paying loans. This plan has become harder and harder since the cost of tuition rises and my state grant opportunities do not. An increase of around $534 to my state grant is almost equivalent to a full-time work week for me. Currently, I'm not able to take weeks off of work for important school priorities such as finals or large projects. I find myself having to manage both, and this is not a sustainable practice as I find myself either lacking in my studies or work abilities. Additionally, when it comes to registering at our university, we must have a low enough balance in order to register for courses where this increase would definitely benefit myself and others to stay enrolled for the following semesters. Our students deserve to be set up for success. 16,000 TRIO students have already taken the initiative to enroll themselves in a program that provides advising and workshops to improve their skills for school. They are dedicated to their education, and we as a community should be dedicated to them and their success. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. And I believe you said that we have another person with us, Mr. Lottu. Can you please say their name again and I'll recognize them? Oh,
Hi, no, sorry, that was on TV.
Oh, that was, okay. Thank you very much. Now on deck is Mary Hoff, Minnesota Inclusive Higher Education Consortium. And with us now is Amy Wallstein, the Education Policy Director at Minnesota Business Partnership. Welcome to the committee. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Amy Wallstein. I'm the Education Policy and Workforce Development Director for the Minnesota Business Partnership, a trade association comprised of the 114 CEOs and senior leaders of Minnesota's largest employers. I'm here today to highlight the skills path provision in the Senate Higher Education Bill at Article 2. And I want to thank Senator Coleman, Senator Tomassoni, Senator Chamberlain, Senator Duckworth, Senator Rarick, and Representative Haley for their work on this bill. The idea for skills path stemmed from previous work that has been done to build education employer workforce partnerships, like the Youth Skills Training Program at Department of Labor and the Dual Training Program, which is housed at Department of Labor, as well as Office of Higher Ed. It is also the product of many conversations with students, parents, school leaders, industry leaders who are saying the same thing. We need to make career pathways into skilled work in the trades more clear for students. Dual credit, concurrent enrollment, PSEO programs are some of the ways that high school students begin their pathways to post-secondary. However, these opportunities can be few and far between for students in skilled career pathways, and it can be difficult for students to navigate these pieces to start preparing for skilled careers in high school. So what Skills Path does is create a special designation for programs that provide students with clear pathways from high schools to careers in skilled work in the trades. It's designed to demonstrate how students can earn post-secondary degrees in less time by combining high school with post-secondary credit through youth skills training, dual credit, PSEO, and other concurrent enrollment options. Skills Path designation brings these pieces together to define career pathways in skilled industries. And by developing these designations, schools provide the necessary information about pathways for students, taking the guesswork out of a complicated puzzle. In many cases, students may be able to utilize dual credit and workforce scholarships to earn an associate's degree with minimal cost to students. Skills Path does not by itself place students into the workforce or change any aspect of child labor laws. It just simply demonstrates to students what their options are to learn skilled work in safe environments while also gaining credit. The Skills Path designation will be a strong tool to help high school students understand their career pathways in the trades. And it will also take employer partnerships with education to the next level by further incenting education training institutions to partner with business and industry to tailor programs grounded in strong technical and professional skills to help develop future employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On deck is Carter Yost, Minnesota Student Association. And with us now is Mary Hoff, Minnesota Inclusive Higher Education Consortium. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and conference committee members. My name is Mary Hoff, and I'm a parent advocate and co-leader of the Minnesota Inclusive Higher Education Consortium. On behalf of the consortium, the ARC Minnesota, the thousands of prospective students with intellectual disabilities and their families statewide, I thank you for giving the Minnesota Inclusive Higher Education Act a hearing in both the Senate and the House Higher Education Committees this session. We ask that you include the inclusive higher education provisions from the House Higher Education Committee's Omnibus bill in the final conference committee report. This will broaden access to post-secondary education for students with intellectual disabilities at institutions of higher education throughout the state. The Gateway to College for People with Intellectual Disabilities opened in 2008 with the reauthorization of the Higher Education Opportunity Act. Since 2008, more than 300 colleges and universities across the United States have embraced inclusive higher education by including students with intellectual disabilities. Minnesota lags behind. Minnesota's current inclusive higher education enrollment capacity of 90 to 100 students compared to the estimated 5,000 prospective college students with intellectual disabilities exposes the gap. Today, there are Minnesota institutions of higher education that are interested and eager to start an inclusive higher education initiative, but they are faced with two main barriers: initial funding and varying levels of expertise and experience in inclusive higher education and students with intellectual disabilities. The inclusive higher education provisions included in the House Omnibus bill address these barriers and create the opportunity for Minnesota institutions of higher education and our state to join the inclusive higher education movement nationwide. We know that students with intellectual disabilities who attend post-secondary education are more than twice as likely to be employed, live in homes of their own, and rely less on government supports like SSI and vocational rehabilitation. Further, students with an intellectual disability who earn a post-secondary education credential will strengthen the Minnesota workforce, contribute to the Minnesota economy, and lead to long-term cost savings for the state. The gateway to post-secondary education opportunities has been narrow and impassable for far too long for Minnesota students with an intellectual disability. I urge you to include the inclusive higher education provisions in the conference committee report. And at such time, I welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On deck, we have Dr. Robert John Peterson, the TE2 consulting and educator. With us now is Carter Yost. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, members of the conference committee. I hope you're all well. My name is Carter Yost. On behalf of the University of Minnesota Twin Cities undergraduate student government and the 35,000 students we represent, I'm here before you today to emphasize 3 essential student priorities that we hope to see included in the final higher education bill this session. And those are campus safety improvements, positive reforms to the University Board of Regents system, and increased access to student basic needs. Campus safety consistently ranks as among the top, if not the top priority for students at UMN. And MSA's all-campus survey last fall, out of the thousands of students who responded, nearly 70% said that they believed improving and expanding campus lighting would reduce safety and security concerns more than any other option. We're grateful that the House proposal commits such a strong investment in campus safety and includes funding towards infrastructural investments like street lighting expansions. In addition to campus safety, administrative accountability is a big deal to students. And that's why we're so excited by the bipartisan support for changes to the Board of Regents system. Reforming the Regent selection process and adding a faculty seat to the board are fantastic steps in the right direction. And we believe that an amendment to include an additional student regent would be collectively beneficial as well. Finally, we want to emphasize the importance of supporting student basic needs access. Food insecurity continues to be a major issue for our students, but policies like the Hunger-Free Campus grants have gone a long way to address it. UMNTC has been a Hunger-Free Campus certified institution for the past year, and already the benefits have been remarkable. And it's why we hope to see an expansion to HFC included in the final bill. The priorities I've outlined today are about policy, absolutely, but they're also about our values. And all things considered, we believe the House proposal makes further progress on upholding those values. And on the issues I've just discussed, when it comes to disparities in safety funding or basic needs support, to meet in the middle would be to fall tragically short. As members of this conference committee, the votes you cast and the policies you prioritize in this bill will shape the future workforce and the leaders of this great state. And it's the very foundation of our moral code that there is no cause more noble or more necessary than ensuring that our children and our young people and our future generations are set up for success. I'm committed to that idea, and I know you are too. And I look forward to the passage of a final bill that lifts up undersupported student communities, lives up to our core values, and ensures that every student in our state can feel safe, seen, and supported. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. On deck is Kate Perushek, Assistant Commissioner, and with us now is Dr. Robert John Peterson. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. Talofa lava, greetings. My name is Leatawa Dr. Robert John Peterson, and I'm the president and founder of TE2 Consulting. I'm also a lifelong educator, community member, and parent of 2 middle school-aged children. I'm here today to offer my support for the higher education bill. The bill contains numerous proposals, many of which I support. In particular, I'm here to speak in support of 2 proposals in the bill. First, I'd like to speak in support of the proposal relating to colleges and universities being required to provide students notification of when their standardized assessment scores exempt them from having to enroll in developmental education courses due to their having reached or exceeded college-ready benchmark scores on standardized assessments like the MCAs, the ACT, and or the SAT. Providing students with notification of their having been exempted from taking developmental education courses would positively impact students by increasing the acquisition of credits, leading to a degree and or a credential, and by maximizing the benefit of student financial aid. Second, I would like to speak in support of the proposal to reduce the share of the student responsibility in relation to the state grant aid program by 2%, from 50% to 48%. The rising cost of tuition, inflationary increases, and the pandemic have all, in some fashion, negatively been impacting student enrollment into post-secondary. Minnesota will continue to need more students of all backgrounds enrolling into post-secondary, persisting and completing college with a degree and or a credential of value to remain a national and international leader in the private and public sectors. Healthcare, education, engineering, business, construction, manufacturing, and many more fields are dependent upon a skilled workforce. The state of Minnesota needs more skilled workers, and that is why I support the 2-point reduction in the share of tuition that students are responsible for here in Minnesota based on the state grant aid program. The broad and positive impact of reducing the student share will not only be good for Minnesota, it will be good for Minnesotans. In recent testimony to members of this committee, Dr. Bruce Corey estimated that Alana BIPOC students represented annually a $1.5 trillion talent portfolio, and that these students, Minnesota students, invest $1 billion of their hard-earned money to pay for tuition and living expenses every year. Dr. Corey and I are urging this body to continue increasing investments in 4 areas: affordable education, such as the state grant aid program, multi-tiered student support services, cultural intelligence in the learning environment, and a focus on outcomes disaggregated by race and ethnicity. Many of the proposals in this bill, this bipartisan bill, and especially the ones I mentioned, do just that. I am strongly urging members of this community to powerfully lead on behalf of our students, Minnesota students, and secure the significant investments laid out in this bill. Investing in higher education will spur creativity, innovation, and prosperity now and into a more just and equitable future. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. Paftai.
Thank you very much. With us on deck is Yahya Madar, and with U of M track athlete, and with us is Kate Pershek, Assistant Commissioner, Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Conference Committee members. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. My name is Kate Pershek, and I'm an Assistant Commissioner at the Department of Labor and Industry. I would like to comment on the Skills Path program in the Senate version of House Bill 3872. As the agency that oversees the Youth Skills Training Program, Registered Apprenticeship, and leads the Dual Training Pipeline Program, we agree that engaging young people through career exposure, career readiness, and where appropriate, employment-based training is important to informing career path decisions. The department has significant concerns, however, with employing young people in hazardous occupations, and alternatively supports safe training opportunities where student learning and career exposure rather than production are the focus. We believe that rather than create a new program like Skills Path, that the legislature should consider expanding existing training programs. The department urges the Conference Committee to reconsider the governor's recommendation for the Dual Training Pipeline Program to train individuals in high-wage, high-skill, in-demand careers. The governor's proposal would increase grant funds by $2 million each fiscal year and add childcare and transportation as eligible industries within Dual Training Pipeline. The legislature could also consider the department's proposal to expand registered apprenticeship and grow youth skills training. Youth skills training has a record of success in engaging 16 and 17-year-old student learners in eligible industries, and we are hopeful the Jobs and Labor Conference Committee will agree to a funding increase for these programs. We appreciate the opportunity to engage with legislators and stakeholders on the Skills Path concept and commit to working together to create better pathways for young people to in-demand careers. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. On deck is Shane Wiskus, a U.S. Olympian, and we have now here is Yahya Madar, student U of M track athlete. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, my name is Yahya Madar, and I'm a high jumper on the University of Minnesota track team. I want to go to dental school and continue to excel in the high jump. We need your help. The U of M has tons of billboards around the city and has commercials asking, do you know what the M does for you? I'm here to tell you that the main product the U creates for the state is me, a future graduate, a future worker, taxpayer, youth coach, husband, community leader, and hopefully aspiring dentist. Today, I'm a student athlete. What I do for you is study, compete, represent the university, then graduate and reinvest my education in the state. I chose the U because I wanted to compete for the best team and school in the state while getting an education. Sports became a pathway to university education, one that will get me closer to becoming a dentist and helping our community. I nearly lost my opportunity. I don't understand why outdoor track was reinstated and indoor track cut the night before the regions voted, but I do know that tough problems deserve deep study. You research when you don't have answers, and you form study groups to figure things out. How hard did the university study the actual problem facing the athletic department? How do you discover a sustainable solution to keep non-revenue sports available? They couldn't have if they had changed an entire proposal to cut 4 teams to 3 the night before a very serious decision was made. It seems they wanted a quick budget fix instead of solving the real problem. That original proposal nearly ended opportunities for athletes like me, a Black local kid who was just trying to get an education, become a doctor, and high jump over 7 feet along the way. It did end opportunities for others. We need your help to support forming a special commission to study possible ways to preserve non-revenue sports. Get the data, get the facts, unbiased, and then explore workable solutions to keep non-revenue sports around. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. On deck, we have Katya Zapata, and with the Minnesota Council on Latino Affairs. And presenting to us now is Shane Wiskus, U.S. Olympian. Welcome to the committee. Well, we will, I'm not sure if he's on the call or not, but we will try back at the end if he is available. So thank you. With that, on deck is Andrew Morris, Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans. And with us right now is Katya Zapata. Welcome to the committee.
Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and members. For the record, my name is Katya Cepeda, and I serve as the Legislative and Policy Director in Education at the Minnesota Council on Latino Affairs. Research has clearly demonstrated all students benefit from diverse teachers. Research is also clear that gaps narrowed for students who are of color or American Indian, who have teachers reflecting their diverse backgrounds. We must be responsive to their needs. A recent national study about labor shortage has found that the highest rates of turnover were among those working in education. This bill will not only address the shortage of teachers of color and American Indian teachers, but increasing teachers from our communities will address the overall teacher workforce shortage in schools. These investments will contribute to building and diversifying Minnesota's workforce in education and other sectors of the economy. Therefore, we strongly recommend that you fully support the proposed strategic investments needed to ensure positive returns on the investments in House File 3917 and Senate File 3714. We appreciate the leadership demonstrated by Chair Bernardy and Chair Tomassoni for their work leading the higher education committees, and to Representative Keeler and Senator Rarick for serving as lead authors for House File 3917 and Senate File 3714. Thank you for your leadership in doing what is right for all students in Minnesota.
Thank you very much. Okay, so on deck, we have Patrick Baker, Government Relations Director of Western Governors University, and with us now is Andrew Morris in the Council of Asian Pacific Minnesotans. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and members, good morning. For the record, my name is Andy Morris, and I serve as the Public Affairs and Legislative Liaison at the Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans. As our councils have done every year since 2017, we are here to share a united message from the 3 state ethnic councils and the Indian Affairs Council in strong support of the provisions from House File 3917 and Senate File 3714, the 2022 Increased Teachers of Color Act Higher Education Supplemental Bill, to be included in this year's Omnibus Higher Education Bill, House File 3872, as our top joint priority in higher education. Increased funding for the aspiring Minnesota educators of color scholarships and underrepresented student teacher grants is crucial. These scholarships and grants support hundreds of teacher candidates from our communities that are already in preparation pathways to finish their licensure programs and become teachers. Yet funding provided last year reached only 15% of the estimated amount required. The demand for these programs is there. We just need to provide the opportunity. As a state, we have yet to take the necessary action to truly achieve improved results and narrow equity gaps, including by addressing the persistent shortage of teachers of color and American Indian teachers. We urge you to support increases for these grants and scholarships to intentionally address what is needed to move the needle so our students and families have improved and more equitable access to teachers who reflect the diversity of our state and will improve educational outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now with us, we have on deck Chief Dan King, President of Red Lake Nation College. And with us now is Patrick Baker, Government Relations Director at Western Governors University. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, Chair Bernardy and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Patrick Baker. I'm here today representing Western Governors University, and I'm speaking to you from my home in Mankato. I'd like to first give you a bit of background on what makes our university unique. Over 25 years ago, 19 bipartisan governors founded WGU as a solution to meet a growing need for a college-educated workforce. From the beginning, WGU was designed to be different. Our founding governors knew that the college student of the 21st century will be very different from the students in the past. For millions of working adults, the dream of pursuing a college education could only become a reality once boundaries of time and place could be removed. These governors founded WGU to be nonprofit, affordable, 100% online, and with a focus on working adult learners. As such, WGU utilizes an exclusively competency-based learning model. Simply put, this model measures skills and learning rather than time spent in the classroom. We hold learning constant and time variable, allowing students a more flexible and faster path to degree. In short, WGU was created by states, for states, to complement, not compete with, state systems of higher education. Today, WGU offers programs at the bachelor's and master's degree levels in 4 high-need areas of workforce development: teaching, health and nursing, IT, and business. WGU is the largest nonprofit university in the country with 130,000 full-time students across all 50 states, including 1,500 right here in Minnesota. More importantly, WGU has 275,000 graduates, nearly 4,000 of whom are in our state. WGU students in Minnesota are unique and distinguish us from our peer in-state institutions. 87% of them are over the age of 25, 87% work well enrolled, and 63% represent one or more underserved populations. The average WGU student in Minnesota is quite literally a working mother. In fact, less than 1% of our undergraduate student body came to WGU with only a high school diploma. Virtually all of our students have tried traditional brick and mortar options before coming to WGU. What the current Senate language would do is provide Minnesota residents attending WGU the opportunity to participate in Minnesota's financial aid programs. In the legislation we're proposing, WGU would be subject to the same regulatory standards as other in-state institutions. We just simply would not have a bricks and mortar location in the state. As Chair Rarick indicated yesterday, the Office of Higher Education has put forward language to establish a pilot project to permit Minnesotans to receive access to state aid who attend up to 10 online universities that meet very strict criteria to model this initiative and report the results back to the legislature. We are open to this concept and continue to work with OHE on this proposal. Before I close, I want to ensure I specifically address key areas of interest raised by the committee about our proposal yesterday. According to the Office of Higher Education, Minnesota needs more than 100,000 adult learners to earn a post-secondary credential by 2025. And that in order to meet this goal, quote, there should be a concerted effort to enroll adults with no college experience and re-engage adults with some college, but no credential. To achieve this attainment goal, Minnesota will need an all-hands-on-deck effort, and WGU can be part of the solution and help make higher education for working learners more accessible. WGU utilizes a fundamentally different model of online education that is distinctive from our peers and that also offer courses online. The primary differentiator is that WGU student is assigned a full-time faculty mentor who meets that student weekly from the day they enroll to the day they graduate, providing intensive support along their education journey. Our faculty work evening and weekends to ensure that our students can study and receive support on their own schedule. Legislatures in several states have amended their financial aid programs in a similar fashion to what is proposed in this bill to positive results of moving significantly more adult and underserved learners to degree completion while not jeopardizing their financial aid programs. In fact, in the states where WGU students have access to financial aid, enrollment in state universities has increased. WGU is affordable. A student will pay less than $8,000 per year for an unlimited number of courses. This low cost means that our students graduate with half the debt of the national average, and our students default at half the rate of the national average. Today, an estimated 566,000 Minnesotans Let me repeat that. Over 500,000 Minnesotans have some college, but no degree. This is untapped.
Mr. Baker, can I ask you to wrap up your comments and we can have you have members ask questions afterwards, just to make sure we get through everyone?
Yes, ma'am. On the last paragraph. So you're right on cue. But it's untapped human potential, those 500,000 Minnesotans. We were built to serve. It's our contention that a focus on how to best serve residents and students, not institutions, will best guide the legislature's approach on how to make higher education more accessible to working learners. And happy to stand for questions and continue conversation with members of the committee.
Thank you very much. On deck is Barry Fick, Minnesota Higher Education Facilities Authority. And now with us today is Chief Dan King. Welcome to the committee.
Bonjour, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I would like to first thank all the conferees for working together and for being open-minded on our proposal. I would like to give a special thank you to Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, Reps Keeler and O'Neill, and the author of the bill for Tribal College Aid, Senator Rarick. Thank you all. I ask everyone to support this bill really for all of higher education. I previously sent a 3-page summary and a 1-page summary out to everyone that you can take a look at. This is really the most impactful Minnesota legislation ever for Indian education. It addresses the tremendous education gaps for natives in Minnesota. Tribal colleges are actually a key access bridge for higher education for the almost 100,000 natives in Minnesota. What I like best about this bill is that it helps Native people get educational equality and access. It allows us to help ourselves by educating ourselves out of poverty. This bill means we can lift ourselves up. It supports the main schools, these tribal colleges and higher education, that are transforming Native communities right now. So let's help Native communities help themselves. We're not asking for a free gift here. We're asking for a hand up. So help us help ourselves. And one of the best things I like about this bill is that the return on investment for this $3 million a year for tribal colleges will probably be the best return on investment anything the state does. We did a recent survey at our college, Red Lake Nation College, and we found we had 100% placement. People were either left our school making $10,000 more per year than when they came in, or they transferred to other four-year schools in Minnesota. So that's a win for Minnesota, it's a win for natives, and it's a win for the country. So miigwech for your support.
Thank you. With us on deck, we have Paul Serkvenik, President of Minnesota Private College Council, and with us now is Barry Fick with the Minnesota Higher Education Facilities Authority. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair Bernardy and Chair Tomassoni, committee members. My name is Barry Fick. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Higher Education Facilities Authority. I'm here to speak in support of Article 3 of the bill. The Minnesota Higher Education Facilities Authority has for over 50 years successfully provided project financing for Minnesota nonprofit higher education institutions. Over the past few years, we've received multiple requests from not-for-profit healthcare and organizations to enable us to assist them with financing. The bill that we are proposing would allow us to expand our issuance authority to help not-for-profit healthcare and senior living financing. This would be in addition to our current higher education facilities financing authorities. This would both respond to requests from those borrowers as well as ensure the financial future authority for the next 50 years. I would like to note that this amendment has no effect on the ability of Minnesota to issue bonds. There is no state support that is required or has been received by the authority. We are fully self-funded. The state does not guarantee the debts that we issue. The debts we issue are repayable strictly from the borrowers, so there's no adverse effect to the state of Minnesota. And what this would do is basically allow an additional option for healthcare and senior living organizations so that they would be able to access tax-exempt financing from another source besides what they already can. It would help keep project finance costs low, no cost to the state of Minnesota taxpayers. Borrowers have pay all the financing costs, and we think this is a great opportunity for the state to enhance and help higher healthcare, higher education, and senior living. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On deck is Mark Grant, Government Relations with Minnesota State College faculty, and with us now is Paul Cernega. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Cernega.
Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and members of the conference committee. For the record, my name is Paul Cernega. I'm the president of the Minnesota Private College Council. I want to begin by thanking you for the time you have taken to listen to the personal stories shared by students about the Minnesota State Grant Program when they testified in the House and Senate committees or this committee, or when they visited individually with legislators through Zoom meetings. Their message is a powerful one. The Minnesota State Grant makes a transformational difference in their educational journey. Paying for college and completing a college degree is hardest for students from families with fewer resources to pay for college. That is, families with incomes below the median family income. In Minnesota, that's about $90,000. These are the students served by the Minnesota State Grant Program. We ask that you make investing in the Minnesota State Grant a high priority for this conference committee. We're very grateful for the House bill's funding that allows for a 2 percentage point reduction in the share of the cost of college students are expected to pay, from 50% to 48%. This change will increase grants for all 64,500 students who will receive a grant next year, with the increases ranging from $350 to $530. And an additional 1,500 students will receive state grants with this change. The Minnesota State Grant Program has a big impact. 44% of all Minnesota students at Minnesota institutions receive a state grant. 59% of Minnesota students of color receive a state grant. And 67% of state grant recipients come from families with incomes below $50,000. We urge the conferees to include the House proposal in the final higher education bill. When you invest in these students, you support them as they find a pathway that will make a multi-generational impact in the economic circumstances of their family for generations to come. We also appreciate and support the House bill's provisions that make nonprofit colleges eligible for hunger-free campus grants and the increase in funding for that program to better meet the food insecurity needs at all campuses, public and private. This is a student-led initiative that we hope you will include in your final bill. On behalf of our 17 colleges and universities and their more than 50,000 students, I've submitted a letter to the conferees which address these issues and others important to our colleges and students. We will be available to respond to you as you do your work. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to testify before you today.
Thank you very much. On deck is Ann McCulley, Executive Director of Child Care Aware Minnesota. And now we have Mark Grant, Government Relations of Minnesota State College faculty. Welcome to the committee. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni. For the record, my name is Mark Grant. I'm an instructor at Dakota County Technical College, and I'm here representing Minnesota State College faculty. We're the union that represents more than 4,000 college instructors, counselors, and librarians on 39 campuses across the state of Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity today. First, MSCF applauds the respective committees on their student-centered approach this session. The tuition relief brought forward by the House and the expansion of workforce grants brought by the Senate make it clear that students were at the heart of your decision-making process. Those observations aside, unfortunately, our concerns are going to sound a little familiar. The bills do not address the fundamental challenge our campuses continue to struggle with, which is the over-reliance on tuition dollars for campus operations. The amount of money for direct campus support in both bills is below Minnesota State's supplemental budget request and well below what is needed. This base funding provides much needed stability and allows our campuses to maintain and expand programs vital to students and to the communities of Minnesota. Both bills seek to make it easier for many students to pursue their educational and occupational goals on our campuses. But the question is, what kind of campuses will they be attending? aiding students in their pursuit of an education in much needed fields like law enforcement ultimately will fall flat if our campuses cannot continue to attract and retain the highest quality college faculty. Whether it's law enforcement, heavy construction equipment, or nursing, our campuses represent critical infrastructure in Minnesota. And when our campuses struggle, the consequences are felt in every corner of the state. MSCF urges this committee to take advantage of this genuinely unique opportunity and reinvest in Minnesota State higher education system. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. On deck, we have Miriam Kailander, student parent and whole family coordinator of the Office of Higher Education. Now, talking with us right now will be Ann McCulley, Executive Director of Child Care Aware of Minnesota. Welcome to the committee. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bernardy and Tomassoni and conference committee members. For the record, my name is Ann McCulley, and I am Executive Director of Child Care Aware of Minnesota. I'm here to speak to the importance of including legislation in your final omnibus bill that supports the addition of more early childhood educators in Minnesota. The early childhood workforce is an essential workforce. Our early educators are key players in children's healthy brain development, help build the foundation that children need for the future, and they're also key supporters of working parents, businesses, and our economy. Without a strong and healthy early childhood workforce, we cannot sustain a strong and healthy economy. The COVID-19 pandemic has threatened the already underfunded childcare industry, making recruitment and retention of qualified early educators even more challenging. Providing support and incentives to encourage more Minnesotans to join the early childhood workforce is a necessary element to our efforts to stabilize and grow this system. We appreciate the proposal to provide additional funding for the Aspiring Teachers of Color Scholarship in the House bill and to increase funding for the Workforce Development Scholarships in the Senate bill, both of which include early childhood education as one of their focus areas. One piece we do see missing from both bills, however, is the governor's proposal to expand the state's dual training pipeline program to include the field of childcare. We strongly urge you to consider this element as negotiations move forward. This proposal offers an opportunity to provide direct support to our childcare programs in their efforts to attract, retain, and improve the education of their staff. In a recent nationwide survey of 5,000 childcare programs, 2/3 of respondents reported experiencing a staffing shortage, forcing them to serve fewer children, close classrooms, reduce operating hours, or close altogether. In addition, during the pandemic, some existing training and education programs have been waived, resulting in staff who may already be working in childcare that will need to pursue their certification and degree options as these waivers are lifted. We see childcare as a career with many facets that is deserving of respect and support, and given the tremendous impact it has on our children, families, and communities, and we hope you agree. Thank you for your efforts and your time today.
Thank you very much. On deck is Jennifer Mueller, Dean and Child Care Center Director at St. Cloud State. And with us right now is Miriam Kailander, student parent and whole family coordinator of the Office of Higher Education. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and committee members. For the record, my name is Miriam Kailander, and I serve as the student parent and whole family coordinator with the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. Thank you for your work this session and for the opportunity to show support for the Student Parent Support Initiative portion of this bill. There are a multitude of challenges parenting students face when pursuing a post-secondary credential. If funded, this initiative creates the opportunity to ease some of these issues for parenting students so they can more readily persist and complete their higher education goals and go on to earn family-sustaining wages. We know that parenting students manage difficult realities on a daily basis. Student parents in Minnesota are more likely to be women, unmarried, enrolled part-time, and low income. We also know that of the Minnesota students who received SNAP benefits this past fall semester, 39% of them reported having a child at home. Also, in the 2019 and 2020 academic year, over 50% of unmarried student parents who received a Minnesota state grant had annual incomes under $20,000, which makes up considerably fewer financial resources than their non-parenting peers. By comparison, the average family adjusted gross income for the parents of dependent students was roughly $93,000 in Minnesota. National research finds that while single mothers who earn college degrees experience significant benefits for themselves and their families, they are also some of the least likely students to be able to complete their degree. Nationally, only 8% of single mother undergraduates complete an associate or bachelor's degree within 6 years of their initial enrollment, compared to nearly half of women in college who are not mothers. The proposed initiative will support access to childcare, coaching or navigation services, and additional financial aid, among other services, helping mitigate these unique challenges. By supporting parenting students now, we invest in greater economic stability, not only for these students and their families, but for Minnesota as a whole, through their participation in the workforce, increased income taxes, and savings in public assistance programs. For example, single mothers in Minnesota who graduate with an associate's degree are 48% less likely to live in poverty than a high school graduate, saving Minnesota more than $21,000 in public assistance spending over their lifetime. They will earn an additional $295,000 over their lifetime than with a high school diploma alone, contributing more than $82,000 more per graduate in lifetime state taxes. Similarly, single mothers in Minnesota who graduate with a bachelor's degree are 75% less likely to live in poverty than with a high school graduate, than just being a high school graduate alone, saving Minnesota more than $36,000 in public assistance spending over their lifetime. They will earn an additional $571,000 over their lifetime than with a high school diploma alone, contributing more than $217,000 more per graduate in lifetime state taxes. State investment in services like those proposed here more than pay off based on what parenting graduates can contribute in future lifetime state taxes. The Institute for Women's Policy Research estimates significant returns on state investments in childcare, case management, and financial aid, resulting in $2.95 returned for every dollar spent on childcare, $5.13 returned for every dollar spent on case management, and $4.70 returned for every dollar spent on financial aid. By these estimates, funding supportive services like these for parenting students are worthy investments. Thank you again for your time, effort, and attention throughout this session, and for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you very much. Now on deck is Tavia Paredes, and a parent and RTB scholar. And with us right now is Jennifer Mueller, Dean and Child Care Center Director at St. Cloud State. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chairs Bernardy, Tomassoni, and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to address you about the important issue of nurturing healthy and economically stable families in our state. For the record, I am Dr. Jennifer Miller, and I am proud to serve as the Dean of the College of Education and Learning Design at St. Cloud State University, and also as the director of our campus Child Care Early Learning Center, which serves predominantly student parents on our campus. Having been an educator for over 30 years, I stand in strong support of all education enhancing related funding proposals. I come today to champion the efforts around the student parent support initiatives. We work closely with the families we serve in our Child Care Center at St. Cloud State. In addition to providing a high quality early learning and care setting, we serve them in several ways. We are awardees of a federal C-Campus grant, which stands for Child Care Access Means Parents in School, through which we fund child care tuition costs, a student support center, parent education opportunities, and social connection opportunities for the families. We also help connect families to the various resources they may need, whether it be campus-based or in the community. We serve approximately 30 families with young children in our center through the grant, and the financial and other support is invaluable to them, in addition to access to a safe and reliable childcare option. Most of the families would simply not be able to complete their educational goals without the services we are able to provide. So not only are we providing access to critical early learning opportunities, We also are able to contribute to the eventual economic stability for these families as they complete degrees and access higher paying jobs. It would be amazing to grow our capacity on our campus and also be able to support more student parents in these ways. It is a high-powered combination in our ability to afford access to high-quality childcare and supporting families with resources and the educational opportunities as they work to better themselves and their financial and economic status. I also see this as an important role of our institutions of higher education, and building our capacity to function as support for families in this way is critical. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now on deck is Valerie DeFore, Health Force Minnesota, and with us is Tavia Paredes, a parent and RTV scholar. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. For the record, my name is Antavia Paredes Boliu. I am just about done with my bachelor's in chemistry at Metropolitan State University in St. Paul, and I'll be attending the University of Minnesota in the fall to pursue a PhD in chemistry, where I will be supported by a merit-based fellowship thanks to 3M due to academic excellence and dedication. But I would love to stress that while I've been successful objectively, I could have never gotten a merit-based scholarship or fellowship with my previous academic record from before I was able to earn private scholarships due to current lack of support for student parents. Student parents fall through the cracks. Despite the fact that student parents on average earn higher grades than their traditional student peers, they are also less likely to actually complete those degrees compared to those same peers. Access to safe and reliable childcare, food resources, stable housing, and reliable transportation are all barriers to student parents, as evidenced by my own experience. These things cost money, and demographically speaking, these students are the least likely to have access to excess funds. With scholarship funding, I've been able to attend school full-time for my final years. But before I could ever dream of being good enough for scholarships, I had to piece together credits one class at a time, as I could only take classes while my son was in school. Also, a good note is that I couldn't start school until my son was in school because I just couldn't justify the time and the money. I was also somehow working 40 hours a week to pay my bills. I don't know how I did that, having no access to extra money for safe childcare. I can recall evenings after working a full shift in which my son was sick. He was miserable, he was sick, and I had to prioritize him as a mother. He was throwing up and feverish, and I had to skip an evening quiz on D2L. I can recall missing homework windows because I had to pack up my son to walk a few blocks to take the bus so that we could get groceries in the wintertime. And everyone knows packing up a kid in the winter to walk any length takes a long time. And then, of course, there's always some kind of drama on the way. He grew up having to help me carry our bread. I remember him struggling to carry his small load while crossing the street, so a nearby neighbor helped carry it. This is what happens when you don't have that village to raise a child. These things all harm a student's GPA. These things can all be remedied with financial privilege being reappropriated with us parents in mind. Now I can order a pizza while I focus on my finals, and my son, thanks to a paid internet bill, can relax and watch a movie. Privileges I could only have dreamed of 3 years ago. Merit-based scholarships can be earned, but they are designed for traditional students. I have earned some which have bounced back because my tuition was already covered, which wouldn't have happened if I were living in a dorm or eating on a campus meal plan like a traditional student would. But I still have those costs, multiplied by 2 even. I was only eligible to access the Minnesota Office of Higher Education's child care grant for 2 semesters. The supports in place are not always accessible even to those they are designed for. I have met so many hardworking and motivated mothers while in college, but can only think of one other one who has graduated. I was recently asked how I did it from a mother looking for advice, and the truth is I don't know that I recommend it, but we don't have a choice. The mental and physical toll my body has suffered working 20 to 40 hours a week on top of full-time enrollment, student government and group involvement on campus, fellowship meetings to maintain fellowship opportunities and internships, and the demands of motherhood, and I have a notoriously easy child, is shameful. Student parents carry all the burdens of being parents that many know, all the burdens that college students carry that also many know, all the burdens that holding a job carries, which almost everybody knows as well, and too often all the burdens that come with being a minority student and a first-generation college student. This doesn't have to be the case. Minnesota can be the village to help raise its own children by helping their parents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Now on deck is Nicole Matson, Vice President of Care Providers of Minnesota, and with us right now is Valerie DeFore, Health Force Minnesota. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy and members of the conference committee. My name is Valerie DeFore, and I am the Executive Director of the Minnesota State Health Force Center of Excellence, hosted by Winona State University and serving all of Minnesota. For the past 5 months, state agencies, Minnesota State and its customized training departments, private training companies, and long-term care associations have come together under the Next Generation Nursing Assistant Initiative to provide free, upfront nursing assistant training to meet one of the most critical workforce needs facing Minnesota. I'm here to ask you to continue to fund this effort as requested in House File 3872. To date, 17 colleges have offered 53 classes with capacity for 943 students. 5 training programs offered training to 326 students, and 887 people have completed their training, along with 338 high school students who have completed or are about to complete training. When we started this initiative, I didn't think we could find 1,000 people interested in becoming a nursing assistant. As it turns out, our colleges have waiting lists of people wanting to enroll in this free nursing assistant training. Over 1,800 people have completed an input form from our website indicating they want to enroll in nursing assistant training. I hear from people every day asking about the free training. Just last night, I received an email from someone hoping to enroll because her stepmother did the training. The momentum is great. Let's not turn these people away. The need for nursing assistants remains high. Working together, we've shown that this is a successful approach to getting people from high schoolers to new Americans to retirees into critically important, fulfilling jobs. I'll close with an excerpt from an email I received from Jill Brown, who is the Quality Management Coordinator from Benedictine Living Community up in Crookston. She says, "I wish I could express how much this is helping the homes. We are so struggling in our region, so there are not words for this support during such a tough time. The Next Generation Initiative is priceless to us." With that, I ask that you include funding for this work in the higher education bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On deck, we have Erin Puppert, Leading Age Minnesota. And with us now is Nicole Matson, Vice President of Care Providers of Minnesota. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, Chair Bernardy and Chair Tomassoni, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nicole Matson, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives with Care Providers of Minnesota. We are a statewide association of senior care providers with assisted living, nursing home providers, and other organizations who are engaging in senior care supports and services. We were very appreciative of the goal that the governor set to train 1,000 nursing assistants for our sector, and grateful to Commissioner Olson, Health Force Minnesota, and the Minnesota State System, and all of their training partners throughout the state who made this goal possible. This initiative demonstrated that removing barriers was an effective means to recruit people for this training opportunity. It certainly garnered more interest and made it possible for many who wouldn't otherwise be able to pursue this career track. As Valerie stated, I think we were really surprised about the interest and the demand for this free training. We didn't know if we could find 1,000 people who'd be interested in taking courses, let alone completing them and getting on the registry. And thankfully, that turned out not to be the case. People did indeed show up. Ultimately, interest exceeded the initiative's capacity. The convening of many different agencies and organizational stakeholders who collaborated behind the scenes to launch this initiative was quite effective. Because of the various people involved, there was a lot of attention, and I think that really served to publicly elevate the nursing assistant role. And it likely helped pique the interest of candidates who are potentially considering this profession or may possibly have been on the fence. We're experiencing critical workforce shortages. with over 23,000 open positions in the senior care sector, the majority of which are these direct caregiver roles. And we need as many solutions as possible on the table to ensure that we keep a pipeline of skilled, trained individuals flowing into the caregiving profession. We know that retention is another huge piece of solving this issue. And ultimately, we must also be prepared to adequately support and fund senior care providers so they're able to pass along family-sustaining wages to the caregivers they employ. This year, Minnesota welcomed its 1 millionth senior, and we will welcome 60,000 more per year for the next few years. So there will be considerable increasing demand for professional caregivers, and we feel strongly that this initiative has proven effective in recruiting students into nursing assistant training, and it would be a worthy investment to ensure that our state is adequately prepared to meet the needs of Minnesota seniors today and into the future. We ask that you include funding for the no barrier next generation nursing assistant training in your final omnibus bill. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you here today.
Thank you very much. And on deck, if they have joined us, is Shane Wiskus, a U.S. Olympian and former U of M gymnast. And with us right now is Erin Huppert, Leading Age Minnesota. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members. For the record, my name is Erin Hubert with Leading Age, and I am testifying alongside Ms. Matson as a long-term care imperative. As Ms. Matson referenced, we have 23,000 open positions in long-term care, so we really must rely on multiple strategies to address that workforce crisis. That includes increasing our base wages for caregivers. It includes strengthening the pipeline that brings caregivers into our settings, and it includes providing opportunities for advancement into other careers in aging services. So today I'm here to testify in support of the governor's supplemental budget request to support the Next Gen program, which does aim to provide no barrier access to education and training for nursing assistants. I think what we have found is that previous efforts have been made to try to recruit and sustain a really robust pipeline for workforce. Some of those efforts have relied on marketing, and I think what was different about the Next Gen program was the funding invested was really used to create a no barrier experience for students. That included things like free tuition, testing, scrubs, and student supports so that they would be successful. 71% of our nursing homes in the state are limiting admissions due to our shortage of caregivers. Additional funding to continue the Next Gen program would not only help provide relief to organizations experiencing those workforce shortages today, but it also helps retain access to care and services needed by older adults as we continue to age. At Leading Age, our foundation operates a nursing assistant training program called On Track. And we were fortunate to partner with MState to train 100 CNAs, certified nursing assistants, through the Next Gen program, just starting at the end of January of this year. And to date, 70% of our students have completed their training. 85% of our students have already been matched with a nursing facility to begin their employment once they complete their testing. As an online program, we were able to reach students throughout the state, from Roseau to Caledonia. And so while our workforce challenge is a statewide problem, it's especially acute in Greater Minnesota, and we were thrilled to achieve the outcomes of placement in those communities. We are really encouraged by the level of interest in this program, and we know that the demand for caregivers is high. We strongly support the Next Gen program and the funding needed to continue this barrier-free training model. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And now if Shane Wiskus, the U.S. Olympian, is here, he can testify. And while we wait for him, if he's available, we have Commissioner Dennis Olson on deck. Do we have Shane Wiskus with us?
Chair Bernardy, I don't believe he's available. I think Tom is reaching out and trying to connect with him, but we'll let you know if he jumps on.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we have with us Commissioner Dennis Olson, the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. Welcome to the committee, Commissioner.
Well, thank you, and good morning, Chair Bernardy, Chair Tomassoni, and members of the conference committee. For the record, my name is Dennis Olson, and I serve as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to provide some brief testimony today. Since I'm last on the list here, today. Most of what I was planning to share has been covered really so well by many students, faculty, staff, many professional partners as well. So I submitted written testimony, which provides additional details on the positions of the Office of Higher Education. But since I have the floor, I just want to take a few moments to highlight a couple of the many strong and much needed proposals outlined by the governor's budget. Again, many of these you've already heard about through previous testimony, not only during individual hearings throughout the session, but also today. First of all, we greatly appreciate that the House bill includes funding for the Student Parent Initiative, especially after hearing numerous times throughout committee how impactful these investments could be in helping to support thousands of students navigating the unique challenges of parenting while completing their degrees. And we also appreciate that the House includes much needed funding for our tribal colleges in Minnesota. We heard incredible testimony again, including today, on the need throughout this session. I'm happy to see that this proposal has strong bipartisan support, both in the House and Senate bill. In the coming days, with the remaining conference committee here, I'm hoping we can continue to discuss two critical investments that are vital to Minnesota's workforce. You just heard about the first one, the continuation of the Next Generation Nursing Assistant Initiative. I really appreciate Senators Tomassoni and Rarick for hearing this proposal during the release of the governor's revised supplemental budget. And I'm really hopeful we take advantage of the opportunity to continue the initiative with state support. And in that same spirit, the governor also proposed an additional investment in the dual training pipeline program, again, adding two new industry areas that the state currently identifies as two of the most significant high need workforce career areas, those being transportation and early childhood education and childcare. And chairs and members, I want to reiterate the agency's strong concern with the Senate policy proposal that drastically and fundamentally changes the intent and the policy position of state financial aid program eligibility, making state financial aid resources portable out of state. The Office of Higher Education has and continues to express concern over sending Minnesota tax dollars and state financial aid resources to out-of-state entities. The language is currently written in the Senate bill will benefit one specific online institution. And if the state wants to shift the policy and the philosophy of the state grant program, we could certainly do that. But that should happen after meaningful consultation with all of our higher education stakeholders, after a careful assessment of the financial impact, and of course, with an appropriate on-ramp of the time necessary to model all of these changes. And I just have to say, it was said so well by one of our student testifiers on another topic here this morning. Tough problems deserve deep study. And that's our position here as well. If the legislature chooses to fundamentally change our state financial aid policy position, that is something we should take time to fully consider and realize the true impact. OHE is currently engaging stakeholders in conversations about the future of the state grant. We could certainly expand that consultation to include future provisions for out-of-state based institutions if we feel like encouraging enrollment in state institutions is no longer a high priority for the state. The priority and position of the Office of Higher Education is to first and foremost focus on Minnesota students and Minnesota institutions. Finally, chairs and members, I just want to reiterate that we have an incredible opportunity here over the next 10 or so days to develop a strong bill that'll serve Minnesota students and our Minnesota institutions in the ways that they've asked for all session and in the ways that we know and feel that they deserve. So Chair Bernardy and Chair Tomassoni, thank you so much for the opportunity to address the conference committee today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Now, members, we do have some time left today, so I'd like to open it up to questions for our testifiers, followed by a chance for a general discussion about the bill language we've heard so far. And I'll ask members to raise their hand feature if you have a question for any of our testifiers to begin with. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You knew I'd have a question. So I'm really glad that President King is on with us this morning. As I've been kind of processing through with Representative Keeler make this happen. I came across a question that I don't remember if it was spoken in committee, but I'm going to ask it here again, just so we have it on the record. I'm wondering if President King could let us know what his total yearly budget is. And so we kind of know if each of the 3 tribal colleges are asking for $1 million, it'd be helpful to put a perspective around that to know what is your total annual revenue or budget.
Yeah.
Chief King.
Yeah, I would be glad to answer that question. And I wanted to first add, if I could add, I forgot to mention earlier that Representative Keeler is actually the House author too. So I forgot to add, she's been our champion for this whole process. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. But yeah, our annual budget is about $6.5 million for Red Lake Nation College. And just from my experience and knowing my work with the other 2 colleges, Leech Lake, White Earth, I can tell you that they're higher than our budget. So we looked at this 1 million was approximately 17 to 18% of our budgets, which would be about the same percentage as the University of Minnesota gets from the state. And so we were kind of thinking that's how it would relate, is it would be comparable, because right now we're surviving without any state funding at all. And so that's basically like saying to any state school, well, could you survive and operate without 17 to 18 or 20% of your budget from the state? Most schools couldn't. And so we've been doing this for 30 years, operating without any state funding. And all of our residents, all of our students are full Minnesota residents. So technically, it shouldn't even be legal that our students are Minnesota residents, yet the schools that they choose to attend are not supported by the state. It violates every state law, statute, and discrimination statements from the higher ed and from everybody. So it really is kind of been a gray, like a catch-22 for the last 30 years. And as we heard in the committee testimony, the main reason is because, number one, we never got funding, so we're not listed on the public school list of schools that get funding. And so they said, oh, they're not on the list, they don't get money, so they must be private. So they put us down as private. And when you're private, you can't get state funding. So it's a catch-22. We're actually public tribal colleges in Minnesota. So it's kind of a bureaucracy thing too on why we were never funded. So I've been talking about this for 4 years and bringing it up. And this is the furthest we got, thanks to Representative Keeler. And then now people have been open-minded, like Representative O'Neill, which I really appreciate, that both sides of the aisle are being very open-minded and listening to it. And once they look at it, they say, geez, yeah, this is an oversight. We should have funded the tribal colleges. And we're one of the best investments in higher education for natives. So you put money into our schools and you got future, more productive, tax-paying citizens that are a benefit to the state. And then we're transferring to 4-year Minnesota schools. Our students go to BSU, University of Minnesota, all the state schools, Morris, so that's where we go. And so we're really like a feeder system for the state school system. And all of our programs, they're all set up following the Minnesota academic guidelines. So we set them up so all of our stuff transfers. We have articulation agreements with all the state schools. So we're partners with all the state schools because we want our students to go there. They do better in the Minnesota state schools. So that's how we're set up.
Thank you. Representative O'Neill, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, President King. I am just impressed with how thoughtful how you presented that. And you are absolutely correct that we support the University of Minnesota with about 18%. You are absolutely dead on. And so that really helps me to understand the full ask and where it would go, what would it would do. Having grown up there, I know firsthand what the community is like there and how impactful that would be and how important the tribal colleges are. So I just wanted to get that on the record. I wasn't quite sure how it all fit in, but you're just dead on. And I'm just so glad you're here this morning. Thank you, President King. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And if I could add one follow-up to that.
President King.
Yep. We were asked in the previous committee about accountability. And I do want to mention that because the state actually does have full accountability with the tribal colleges. You actually have it right now. We provide all of the same accountability requirements as every other school in Minnesota because our students actually already get, individual funding to themselves, Minnesota state funding. And we have the Minnesota State Indian Scholarship, which is one of the best in the country, by the way. So Minnesota should be proud of that in helping individual students, that payments that go directly to them. So we provide our audits. We provide every state report that is requested of us because we already get this funding and we want our students to get it. So we voluntarily provide it because we want our students to get the funding. And so whatever this reports the state wants annually for this, if we are funded, we will gladly provide anything the state wants. And right now we already provide the exact same things that every other state, is required to provide. And we are required too, because we want our students to get the funding. If we said, well, the state has no right to ask us for funding, we're a sovereign nation. If we said that, then our students wouldn't get funding. So we want our students to get the funding. So we gladly provide all the accountability and requirements and transparency that every other school provides. So I guarantee all of you, we will be providing everything the state requests.
Thank you very much. Representative Christensen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. King, by the way. I enjoyed your testimony and I hope all of this happens for you. So thank you. My questions, I have quite a few questions written down here, but I'm going to focus my questions right now on the U of M athletics issue. So I'm kind of surprised that no one from Minnesota, from the U of M testified today, but I'm assuming there's probably some folks out there that can help answer questions. If not, I'll go on to a couple of the testifiers. But I'm just wondering if there's any kind of data about net loss of students, as a result of the cuts in the programs. If there's any kind of, I realize we're early in this, but if there's any kind of data as to the student loss, and how are dollars reflected in that data or in those losses? I guess I'd also like to know, I know Title IX influenced the decisions, and of course I'm all about Title IX. I was in high school before Title IX was, I would have been a great athlete, I know that, but so Title IX is an awesome thing to have out there, and I do want to honor that. But I'm just wondering about the data there too, what was happening with Title IX, and why did you decide to make the decision? So I guess I'm throwing that out there to see if there's anyone that can help me with answering those questions. Thank you.
I see we have JD Burton on the call, and Mr. Burton, would you like to field that question?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Yes, for the record, I'm JD Burton. I'm the Chief Government Relations Officer here at the University of Minnesota. Representative Christensen, in regards to your question about net loss of students, that's something that I'll have to go back to the administration to find out if there's an answer that I can provide to the conference committee as a follow-up. In regards to the Title IX decision question that you had raised, the Board of Regents did issue a letter in response to, I believe, you and others referencing how that factored into their decision. And so I would defer you back to their letter of April 7th to respond to that question.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm wondering if that information could be shared with our committee, the whole conference committee. Is that possible, JD?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Burton.
Yes, Madam Chair. Representative Christen, we would be happy to share that letter that was provided to the legislators who wrote us with the full conference committee.
Okay, thank you.
And Representative Christensen, or Vice Chair Christensen, I should say, we have someone, Mike Linneman, and I do not have him on my list of testifiers, and he has his hand raised. So could you, were you raising your hand for this question? And can you please state your name and affiliation for the record?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm Michael Linneman. I was a Gopher alum two times, and I'm an alumnus of the track and field program. And to answer Representative Christensen's question, yes, there was a net loss of students, especially in one sport predominantly. Of these three sports that were cut, indoor track, you still have an outdoor team, right? So those students are still there, clearly. Tennis was removed. All of those students left. They transferred. You heard from one of them today, Jackson Allen, who didn't want to leave, was forced to leave. Because of an NCAA rule on eligibility, you have 5 years to use your eligibility. This is why you may see Mormons in Utah start at age like 28, but then their clock starts ticking 5 years once you begin college as athletics to use your eligibility. So you can't take 2 years, wait a couple of years and use it again. It's done. So all of those students left. So that entire team was obliterated and they had to transfer to use up their eligibility. Gymnastics team, a couple of them left. And then the ones that did remain are joining a club team called the Gym Act team in hopes of being reinstated and then rejoining the team and using their remaining eligibility. So we can get you the exact numbers on the tennis team, but it was the entire team. They either graduated or transferred out of the university. And thank you for letting me speak there.
Thank you. Vice Chair Christensen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that, Mr. Linneman. Yeah, I do get it that, you know, I think the track program, I'm a track and field person, so I think the track program, I'm surprised no one left, because to not have indoor track in Minnesota is pretty crazy. I mean, if you're on an outdoor track team and you're competing in the spring, you know, I know this from other universities too, that you're at a disadvantage if you don't have that indoor track season in Minnesota. So, so yeah, I'm just really curious about the data there and how it all relates to dollars. So that's it, Madam Chair. I see Senator Rarick has his hand up.
Okay, thank you. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and a follow up on that as well. I met with a number of folks in all three sports, and one of the other things that happened is there were a number of kids, especially in gymnastics, who have gone through training camp through the University of Minnesota. They were intending on coming to the University of Minnesota, and now that opportunity is gone. A few are hoping it gets reinstated. They're still in high school, but a couple others, they'll be eligible next year, and they have to make a commitment to another school now because they don't know that the university exists. And one of the things I will always remember from our hearing that we had, you know, we had a gentleman, he grew up in Chicago. He came to the University of Minnesota because of the gymnastics program and became a dentist, remains in Minnesota today, has been very involved. And I think that's exactly the type of person we want to attract to the university. And we're going backwards. This is, I believe, just the beginning. And as far as the Title IX that was brought up, there were 40 or 41 women's roster spots that were eliminated, which created a big part of the Title IX issue. It was done together. So I struggle buying into the Title IX argument when all those positions were cut at the same time. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Vice Chair Christensen. Hope you're on mute. Vice Chair Christensen, you're on mute. Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess I just want to be clear that I'm not sure I agree with the Senate language and you know, in the bill that we've got forward, but I hope we can have some really good discussions about this. You know, I think all of you are probably getting the same amount of emails as I am, and I am just inundated with it. So You know, I don't really think there should be punitive action or anything like that. But I think we really need to talk about it and, you know, hope that we can, you know, get some university people in to talk about it also, because it's an important issue. And I saw obviously by my email box the last couple of days, it's not just here in the legislature that it's an issue. It's all kinds of folks, mostly U of M folks, that are trying to get us to really talk more about it. So I hope we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, members, are there any other questions for our testifiers? Representative Cleveland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to maybe ask this question to Mr. Grant, if he's available. Mark Grant.
I believe he is.
I am.
Oh, he is. Okay, yes. Go ahead, Representative Cleveland.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Grant, for your testimony. I really appreciate hearing from you today. You made a statement that speaks to my own personal philosophy about the base funding of the universities being too low. You know, and I'll just say this in public. I hear all of this talk about the surplus and how big the surplus is. And I always feel like we don't have a surplus until we've paid all of our bills. And when I hear things like the base funding is too low, it makes me feel that we're not upholding our obligation. Could you please tell me, do you know the impact of the harm that is going to be done to our state institution by not meeting that base funding requirement?
Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Chairperson Bernardy, and thank you, Representative Cleveland, for that question. I will simply say that that a lack of base funding is the predictable funding that allows us to allows our campuses to work beyond just semester to semester. Enrollment will continue to be a struggle for our campuses, and so when we have an over-reliance on tuition dollars for operation, it just creates a real sense of instability and uncertainty. So we have got programs across the state that are in jeopardy of closing. We've got offerings being contracted. And quite honestly, we have faculty who are experiencing real market pressures from their own industry, and our ability to, again, attract and retain high quality faculty across the state. We are in real jeopardy of losing some faculty members across the state in some of our most critical programs at this point, at this juncture in time. Law enforcement, nursing, heavy construction equipment, electrical line working. Those are just a few off the top of my head where we are really struggling maintaining faculty members for the very simple reason that, truth be told, faculty salaries have not kept up. Our campuses don't have the resources to commit to those programs, and we're in real jeopardy of losing some of them and certainly not accommodating the workforce need in Minnesota.
Representative Cleveland.
Thank you, Chair Bernardy. And that is one of the concerns that I have, Mr. Grant, that when we are thinking about how we are going to meet any of our workforce shortages, if we lose the positions and we don't fund the positions, it becomes a chicken and egg. We can't produce the needed educated workforce because we don't have the professors, and we can't get the professors or help our students graduate in the time period that we would anticipate. So I'm thinking this could maybe extend student education time. Is that correct?
Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Representative Cleveland, you are absolutely correct. And we've actually heard from some community partners who have speculated at this rate, we don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to train our own. And I know that that's a model. I know that that is a philosophy. I will tell you, it is not the philosophy that we are actually hearing from our industry partners. They're saying it may be a necessity, but they are also saying We don't want to do that. We are running businesses. We are not running educational institutions. We don't want to job train. What we want is fully educated, engaged citizenry in our workforce. So not only do we want a graduate who can string electrical wire, but we want a critical thinker. We want an informationally literate. We want the full student, and that's what our institutions do better than anybody else. And so I share your concerns.
Right, thank you. And
Representative Cleveland, do you have a follow-up?
I do, but now if it would be possible, I don't know. I know that Ms. Cernega spoke from Winona State, but I don't know if she's available or if Mr. Bone is available.
We will, she could, I'm scrolling through, seeing who's here. If she is here, she could speak up and we could.
I am here, and Jonathan looks like he just joined as well, so.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so Representative Cleveland.
Well, this is kind of on the same vein of questioning. I'm very concerned about the ability of our institutions, if they are not receiving this predictable and sustainable funding from the legislature, will they be able to meet the needs of our students, not just for today, but in the future, especially when we heard about the need for the nursing assistants and the childcare needs that we have going forward in our law enforcement requirements as well. Would you like to speak to that situation about the need for sustainable funding?
Okay, Ms. Cernega.
Sure, and I'll just invite Jonathan, if he would rather take any of this, to just let me know. But thank you very much, Chair Bernardy and Representative Cleveland. I'd echo many of the things that my colleague Mark Grant mentioned. We really are struggling to keep the programs alive that we know the state needs. As I mentioned, we just closed a journalism program, and if we ever had a need in our society for well-trained ethical journalists, it may be right now. We have a very robust nursing program at Winona State, but nurses, in order to get into that program, need to take classes in English and anatomy and physiology and general education courses, and those departments have been absolutely gutted recently. We have the Great Resignation has hit higher ed just like it's hit everywhere else, and we don't have the funds to replace those retirees. In a normal year, Winona State usually has between 6 and 9 faculty retirements. This year we had 26. I believe they replaced 3 of those. It is absolutely decimating some of the programs that we are most in need of to make sure that our students can be successful in an adequate amount of time. We want our students to graduate in 4 years, but if they can't take English 111, our first year composition course, in a timely way, it sets them back. Not only can they not get into some upper division courses without it, but every semester that they attend college without the first year composition course is a semester where they haven't actually been trained in college level academic writing, and they're struggling to do college level academic writing. So we are really trying our best to keep things going, but that sustainable, expected money that we can rely on from the state is critical because our enrollments are going to fluctuate. I'm happy to say that enrollments at my university are looking up for next year. Students do seem to be interested in returning to college classrooms post-pandemic. So we are looking at a healthy incoming class. But we are very nervous because we actually don't have enough sections of first year composition for all of our first year students. They filled on the 3rd day of registration. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Cleveland, do you have a follow-up?
Does Mr. Bone want to add anything additional to that comment?
Mr. Bone, if you want to, just raise your hand.
No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jenna handled it very well.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just, I want to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, our statutory requirement of 2/3, and then do we have a surplus when we're not really meeting the needs? So that's just the comment I'd like to make. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions by members of our testifiers? I do not. Oh, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you. I'm not sure if anyone from the administration from Min-State is still on. I was kind of looking for Bill Mackey, or I don't think the chancellor joined us today, but we still have sort of an outstanding concern with the president Penn Tech that resigned and then was tucked back into the systems office. And I was told that they were working on some policy changes so that that couldn't happen again, and how they do contracts with their presidents and how they do discipline when someone has had multiple reports of bullying and harassment. I'm wondering if anyone is still on this call that could address that, because it's still outstanding and has not been fixed.
Okay, we'll see if someone is on the call to answer that, please raise your hand. I, like you, didn't see anyone either. Okay. I do not see anyone, Representative O'Neill.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I hope that they, at some point, will get back to us. It's been rather quiet, so I'm hoping that they're working on some policy changes so we don't have 7 years of bullying, harassment continue without unabated, essentially. I'm sure the faculty and the staff that were affected by his behavior would agree with me. In fact, I know they do, because they tell me all the time that something needs to be done. And I'd like to hear from the chancellor or from someone in administration what that something is. What are they going to do to protect their faculty, staff, and students? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, member, are there any more questions of our testifiers? Representative Keeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my questions are, I want to dig in a little bit to the idea of what we're providing our high school students with the skills that they need to go out to do work. So I know that there's Senate language. I think Ms. Wallstein talked about the skills pathway. I know Ms. Prushek talked about the Department of Labor and some of the areas. I guess whoever wants to answer, my biggest thing is, what is the most inclusive pathway to, like, is there a way for our high school students to earn apprenticeship hours while they're in these programs? Because I know that that's an extended amount of time. I mean, I have an electrician that I have worked with that he does apprenticeship opportunities with students, but they typically have to be over 18. So can somebody on the call just clarify for me, is there a way for our high school students to earn apprenticeship hours in a safe way that helps them get closer to that professional opportunity? If that question kind of makes sense.
Is there someone that would like to field that question?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Kate Prushek, Department of Labor.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Prushek.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And Representative Keeler, yes, so the Youth Skills Training Program is housed at the Department of Labor and Industry. And what that program does is it funds partnerships between schools, local chambers of commerce, and employers to provide safe and meaningful work experience to 16 and 17-year-old student learners. And regarding the question of registered apprenticeship, you're right. Most, if not all, current registered apprenticeship programs do require students to be the age of 18 or up. However, there is current statutory language that does allow YST programs and registered apprenticeship programs to count YST participation as credit and towards hours for a registered apprenticeship program. So that's actually something that we've been working on at DLI. Are there ways that we can enhance the existing YST program to ensure that students can earn post-secondary credit as part of YST? It's already in statute, and we did some digging to see, how many programs, how many existing YST partnerships are currently providing post-secondary credit. And there are several. I'll have to dig to find the data, but they are in existence and they do provide post-secondary credit. So we're considering, every year we prepare a YST annual report. So we're considering adding to that report a list of existing partnerships that do provide post-secondary credit so that legislators have a better awareness of those programs. And the second piece that we're looking to do is that those partnerships that are providing credit, what have their successes been? How can they help educate and inform other YST partnerships that maybe currently aren't offering post-secondary credit? So we're looking at ways to do some roundtables, for example, so that YST partnerships can share best practices. So that's something that we're looking at as well.
Thank you. Representative Keeler.
I think that's great. I would love to be in contact and part of the work on how we do that, just because we all know, and we say it over and over and over, that our high school students, many of them need that opportunity to get out into the workforce as soon as possible, just because of their life standards and the things that they need to be able to provide for their home. So I would love the reports and listing. Can I just go one level deeper and ask, how are we making sure that we have a good diversity of population of the partnerships that we're creating? We know that in underserved communities, we don't see a lot of business owners that look like me. So how are we making sure that that representation piece is important in those pairings with businesses and future business leaders?
Ms. Pershek. Oops, you're on mute.
Thanks, Madam Chair and Representative. We do track participation of students of color and the gender of those students participating in YST programs. I don't believe that we're currently tracking, as you specifically mentioned, employer participations, like whether employers are BIPOC owned or woman owned, but that's certainly something we could explore.
Representative Keeler.
I think I would really appreciate that. I know as a business owner, it was information that I disclosed as I was setting up my business. I take a lot of pride in being an Indian-owned business and would love to partner with Indigenous students getting into that work as well. And so if we could just make sure that as we're telling the story and looking at that data, I think that's really important. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is just kind of a follow-up from Ms. Perushek on the same topic. So as we're looking at any type of apprenticeship, I always want to make sure that it's a high quality apprenticeship that really does serve both the needs of the state, but more importantly, the needs of the individual, right? Making sure that they grow and develop. And I'm wondering, as we're looking at what kind of post-secondary credits might be there, will these lead into more meaningful, stackable credentials that that individual can grow with and that are transferable even to our state institutions or to our four-year university systems?
Assistant Commissioner Pershek.
Thanks, Madam Chair and Representative Cleavorn. To answer your first question, yes, part of the Department of Labor and Industry's responsibility is to approve what are called standards of registered apprenticeship programs. So they have to meet both state law and federal regulations to ensure that these registered apprenticeship programs are of high quality and meet the requirements of the law. And we further do annual compliance reviews to ensure that those programs continue to meet those standards. In terms of credit, yes, many apprenticeship programs actually do grant credit for hours worked. So an apprenticeship program can be time-based or competency-based or a hybrid, a mix between the two. I think 90% of our registered apprenticeship programs are in the trades. But we're currently looking to really expand to other industries. We have several programs, registered apprenticeship programs in manufacturing, and we're looking to grow in IT, and we have some great programs in healthcare as well. So as part of the registered apprenticeship program, apprentices have to earn related technical instruction credits. So many of them partner with area colleges, community colleges to provide that technical instruction.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I see that Ms. Wallstein has her hand up, and I would appreciate hearing her response as well if you would please acknowledge her.
Yes, Ms.
Thank you,
Wallstein.
Madam Chair and Representative Cleghorn. I just wanted to jump in to add that part of the impetus behind the Skills Path program is to more clearly articulate what those bridges are between high school and post-secondary, and what stackable credentials or other credits could be, the bridge between high school and post-secondary. Because what we're finding, what we're hearing from students is PSEO concurrent enrollment options are prevalent in high schools, like for some of the academic, but not so much for career and technical education. So it's articulating how your career and technical education courses in high school can be paired up with post-secondary, and then lead you into perhaps a dual training pipeline program, or registered apprenticeship, or an associate's degree or higher in those skilled industries.
Thank you.
Representative Cleghorn, do you have a follow-up?
Just a closing statement, if I may. For me, it's important that I understand that career paths zig and zag, and that people need different things at different times in their life. And I just want to make sure that at every opportunity, we're allowing our public dollars to advance the ability of our students to have and our families to have a better quality of life as they move forward. So I just want to make sure that we focus on that as we look at all of these bills. Thank you.
Okay, members, are there any other questions of our testifiers or any discussion? I do not see any. Okay, so now I just want to check in with Vice Chair Rarick. Is there anything that you would like to make comment on for upcoming meeting or moving forward?
Madam Chair, I guess we'll just, kind of the committee have some conversations. I'm not exactly sure if I don't anticipate calling a meeting tomorrow, but we can all continue our conversations, kind of go over. I know there's not a lot of same and similar between our bills, but there are some things that we can talk about and kind of work towards agreement on. And as we do that, I think, potentially Monday would be a good time to come back to start talking about where some places of commonality are that we can start potentially adopting.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank all of our testifiers that joined us today. We appreciate the leadership and the commitment you have for education, and want to put a particular shout out to our students who testified today. On top of all of their responsibilities and achieving their credentials, they are being leaders in the community and helping other students with their education journey. And so I want to wish them the best and thank them for being here today. With that, I really appreciate our members being here as well. And the meeting is now adjourned.